shocking confession from a child star to Alp Navis, he has quite a big ego. Alp Navis was stunned. A surprising reveal from the child prodigy of the film Sleepyhead, I won't be as egotistical as him. Welcome to Turkish Spotlight Secrets, friends. Before we dive into this wild turn of events, your support means everything. Subscribe and stay close, because today's story revolves around one of the most talked about couples on the scene, Alina Bos and Alp Navis. The center of the storm this time? A tiny yet fearless name, the cheeky child actor Seydi Doruk Yiğit. Yes, you heard correctly. The young star, who plays the childhood version of Alp's character in Sleepyhead, made a comment on the red carpet that froze everyone for a beat. He stepped up to the microphone, smiling with the disarming fearlessness only a 9-year-old can carry, and said of Alp Navis, "He's very handsome, but he has a huge ego. When I grow up, I won't be like him." That one line burst online like a firecracker. Within minutes, the clip exploded across feeds, and suddenly the talk of the night wasn't the premiere, the direction, or the reviews, it was that one word. Ego. Let's rewind to those surreal minutes. The Sleepyhead premiere at the Ataturk Cultural Center had the kind of electricity you can feel under your skin. The lights were relentless, the red carpet a river of flashbulbs, and every camera seemed welded to Alp. After a stretch off the big screen, he returned not just as the lead actor but as the director as well, and that alone drew a sea of press. Alina Bos glided alongside him, poised, luminous, but visibly focused on him, letting him take the spotlight for his big night. A little later, Seydi Doruk Yiğit showed up with his parents, cheerful and a touch restless, the kind of child who infects a room with life. Reporters hovered, charmed by his candor. When a journalist asked, "What did you learn from Alp Navis on set?" he answered with a giggle, "He's very handsome, but he's a bit of an egotist. When I grow up, I won't be like him." The sentence was tiny, but the echo was thunder. Twitter picked it up, Instagram spread it, TikTok stitched it into 100 reactions. Even the kid noticed, one comment said with a smirk. Others teased, "Oh, Alp, what did you do to make him say that?" Of course, some defended the moment as a child's unfiltered honesty. Others insisted it was a misunderstanding waiting to happen. Either way, the word ego began orbiting Alp again, as if it had been impatiently waiting for a chance to come back into the conversation. It's not the first time whispers about his aloofness have brushed the tabloids. People who've worked with him have always argued differently, calling his demeanor meticulous, not haughty. Calm, focused, exacting. But the internet loves a story with teeth. After the screening, journalists cornered him gently, reminding him of Seydi's words. Alp took the microphone, smiled that composed smile of his, and said only, "Seydi is a very sweet boy. I adore him." Unruffled. Brief. Warm without taking the bait. Some thought, he's used to this noise. Others said that response was the quietest denial he could offer. He didn't dive into drama, he let the comment hang in the air and moved on. Alina, who had stood a half step back while he spoke, slipped a hand against his arm as they turned away, a private gesture that said, "We're fine." Of course, the magazines didn't let go. The spark was lit. Now, about Sleepyhead. The film is Alp's return to the big screen after a noticeable hiatus, and this time he chose a story that gets under the skin, about a man facing the ghosts of his boyhood, the quiet earthquakes that shape a life. Alp is admired for grounding the role without showy excess and for bringing discipline to the director's chair. The childhood flashbacks are the film's spine, the place where the adult character's core is revealed. That's where Seydi Doruk Yiğit comes in, delivering short but weighty scenes that audience members couldn't stop talking about after the premiere. By all accounts, the two formed a sincere bond on set. Which is exactly why that ego jab landed like a shock. So what really happened behind the scenes? According to a few meticulously placed whispers, Alp's behavior was intensely professional on the Sleepyhead set. Not a lot of joking between takes, especially around the younger cast. Instead, he kept the mood of each scene intact, holding concentration as if it were part of the set itself. For a child, intense focus can look suspiciously like distance, and distance can look suspiciously like ego. It's possible that egotistical, in Seydi's dictionary, might have meant very serious. Meanwhile, a production assistant quietly insisted that Alp hardly spoke between setups, but he was consistently respectful, watched everyone's work with the eye of a director, and gave concise praise that mattered because it wasn't handed out casually. He publicly commended Seydi's craft more than once. There's even a rumor that after the premiere he sent the child a small wrapped clapperboard, engraved with a date and a simple message, "Bravo." But who is Seydi Doruk Yiğit? Barely 9, already appearing in multiple projects, the kid has that rare blend of courage and charm. The camera loves him, and so do casting directors. Sleepyhead punted him into broader recognition, which means like it or not, he now belongs to a world that magnifies even his jokes. Some journalists called his remark a sincere child's mischief, others, a bold move from someone too young to understand how sharp words can be. Either way, he was suddenly at the center of a whirlwind he didn't plan for. Celebrities chimed in from the sidelines. Demet Özdemir wrote, "Sometimes children speak the purest truth without intending to hurt anyone." Hazal Kaya added, "I adore child actors, they pour out whatever they hold inside." And Bari's Arctic shared a single emoji and nothing else, the digital equivalent of a raised eyebrow and a step back. Everyone talked, nobody picked a side. That's how modern storms work. Plenty of noise, little ownership. Of course, this spun out into the bigger question, what is the line between ego and self-confidence? Alp Navis has built a career that demands certainty, of posture, of taste, of priorities. If you don't carry a spine of belief into that kind of work, the ground moves under you. Confidence from the inside can look cold from the outside. Maybe that is what Seydi saw, a big brother figure so locked into the story that he forgot how the quiet can read as arrogance to someone watching from a few centimeters high. But gossip is not a place for nuance. It trims context and sells the headline, "Alp Navis is selfish." And there it is, large, loud, and clickable. At the premiere, Alp's look followed the same mantra as his comment, polished and minimal. A black suit, understatement as a statement, the cut doing all the talking. He posed with his agent, with the crew, with Alina at his side for a few quiet frames before stepping back out of the blast. When a reporter flung the question about Seydi, that small smile flickered. Cameras drank it in. Critics later whispered that Alp's restraint has thickened over the years into something almost elegant. You could sense he has learned to navigate noise by letting it pass through him. Meanwhile, the team backstage didn't panic. They were startled, who wouldn't be, but they didn't inflate the moment into a crisis. According to a source who works in the production office, Alp made a short call later that night, his voice sensibly warm, telling Seydi, "You acted wonderfully. Well done. No speeches, no corrections. Just a hand extended, invisible to cameras. If there were barbs, they didn't stick. If there were bruises, they healed before morning. The tabloids, naturally, prefer friction. It photographs better." For Alp, Sleepyhead marks a pivot. He continues his television journey with Esref Rüya and has become more exacting when choosing work, weighing scripts the way a tailor measures cloth. Directing this film is a milestone, the kind of decision that alters a map. In the middle of that step forward, a single offhand line from a child became national talk, a reminder of how easily fame can be jarred. A pebble thrown into the lake, and suddenly you can't ignore the rings. There's another dimension to this story that no one can ignore, Alina Bos's presence at every turn. On the carpet, in the wings, after the screening. She didn't grandstand, she steadied. People close to the couple say she has a way of turning down the world's volume. Later that night, she posted a quiet message, a still from the film, a caption about courage and storytelling, and a discreet nod to the team. No lecture. No rebuttal. Just a compass pointing toward the work. Fans read it as a partner's shield that doesn't look like armor. By morning, the storm had mutated, as storms do. Some people were still laughing, kids say the darndest things. Others were debating psychology like late-night philosophers. Was ego the right word? Or was it simply a child's way of naming intensity? Either way, a live wire had been touched. As the day wore on, clips of Alp guiding a scene on set began circulating, him adjusting a lens height himself, nodding to the gaffer, crouching to speak to Seydi at eye level before a take. That final image, where he lowers himself so a child doesn't have to crane his neck, spoke volumes to viewers looking for an antidote to the headline. The truth about these stories is simple and unsatisfying: one word can bend meaning. When Alp smiled at the question and moved on, it wasn't resignation. It was a choice not to feed the blaze. Sleepyhead was the point of the evening, and in the wake of the uproar, that point still held. The film earned praise for its patience, its willingness to sit with discomfort, its refusal to decorate pain. People left the theater talking about the boy and the man he becomes, about memory's stubbornness, about how time is both a healer and a thief. And then there's Seydi, the little comet who meant no harm and lit up the sky anyway. He stood at the premiere, shoulders back, chin up, grinning like the world's youngest veteran. Reporters called his mother the next day, asking if he knew what he'd started. She said he loved the movie, that he loved working with Alp, that he had fallen asleep in the car still clutching a toy he received that night. She didn't specify what the gift was. The child, she said, only kept repeating, it's mine, and smiling. What will linger from this episode? Perhaps the gentlest takeaway of all, that a spontaneous comment gave everyone something to argue over, and maybe made them laugh, and then the work itself stepped back into view. That's the part nobody should miss. Alp's response set the tone. Alina's presence steadied the camera. Seydi's innocence colored the margins. And the production, unshaken, kept moving forward like a crew striking a set in silence. No panic, no spectacle, just the practiced ballet of professionals. So, do you think Alp Navis really carries an ego, or did a child simply magnify the seriousness of a man trying to hold a story together? Is self-confidence a villain only when the lights hit it from the wrong angle? Tell us what you think below. Share your take, push the conversation, and keep it respectful, because behind these headlines are humans crossing a tightrope we've all watched and few have walked. Don't forget to support Turkish Spotlight Secrets by subscribing, liking the video, and turning on notifications so you never miss what shakes the red carpet next. We'll be back with more stories that make you lean in, gasp, and rethink what you thought you knew. Until then, this is Turkish Spotlight Secrets, signing off.